I'm back from the junkyard. All I really picked up was the two of these oscilloscopes, a 100 megabit network switch, and the guts out of that thermoelectric refrigerator. Unfortunately, all the Sun server equipment was pretty outdated, and it was all scuzzy. I didn't see any that had any kind of video output, so not only were they pretty old, they were probably, I didn't even have the equipment to really power them up and do anything with them. So I just had no real reason to get them. But I already took the lid off of this oscilloscope. Everything looks fine inside. So I'm going to try and power this up and see what we get. Okay, I just had to turn up the intensity a little bit, so looks like it's working. I just gotta figure out how to use this thing, see if I can find a manual online. Let's see. Time base. Yep, that works. I'll have to see if I can dig up any scope probes. I don't think I actually have any, because my old scope just had like wire binding posts on an adapter. So menu. I guess it doesn't have any kind of on-screen display. It's all on this LCD here. Yeah. Well, something just exploded, but it kept running while it was going. I think one of the old capacitors that just killed itself. Okay, well, there's the culprit for the magic smoke. It's a 0.22 microfarad mains filtering capacitor. This is on the main power supply board that I pulled out of the scope. Looks like it mainly consists of the switch mode power supply for all of the low voltage stuff, and then on the right side you've got the flyback transformer that gives you the high voltage output to run the CRT on the front of the scope. It's pretty old design. You usually don't see these axial type capacitors anymore. Well, I managed to bodge in a replacement filtering capacitor, so I'll put this thing back together. I'm a little worried about the capacitors. It almost looked like they imploded. This circuit board's really brittle, though. I tried desoldering it a bit and it started pulling up the traces, so I just left it there for now because it does seem to be working fine. And this part's kind of interesting. It's got a little light bulb here in an acrylic mount, and it actually illuminates the grid pattern on the front of the screen. If I take my flashlight here and shine it into the acrylic, you can see it lights up all the grid lines. It's kind of neat. Here's a look inside one of the logic modules, and you can see it's just quite densely packed with all kinds of chips. And there's two surface mount chips here on these little daughter boards. Pair of coaxial inputs coming into this board, and a bunch of ribbon cables going down to the boards below, and some kind of processor or main chip there that's got a little stubby sort of Lego heatsink almost. And next I'm going to try and replace the little cooling fan in there that sounds like death. Okay, I got the second layer circuit board out, and there's the access to the back of the fan. There it is. It's an old Pabst fan. Alright, I found this Nidec Ultraflow fan. I've got it wired into the old plug. This should do a pretty good job of keeping the scope cool. And then this plugs into this board. Okay, let's see what it sounds like now. That sounds a lot better. Might want to put a resistor in there later to slow the fan down a bit. Yeah, I messed up all the knobs when I was adjusting it. This scope is kind of cool. It actually has like an analog mode and a digital mode, so I can hit the digital memory button here, and it switches it over to digital operation. Seems to be a little bit of noise in the signal. Judging by the fact that one of the capacitors exploded, I'm sure that there's probably a few in there that could stand being replaced, but as of now it's still a pretty functional unit. And it's got this little display here that shows all the settings for the volts per division and triggering type and time base and all that kind of stuff, and the digital memory percentage. So yeah, this should be definitely a good one to keep around. Just for fun, I looked up that scope on eBay, and there's 3 other units like it available, and they range from $150 to $550. Alright, now here's the guts out of the Thermoelectric fridge. These are pretty neat if you ever get a chance to mess with one. It's 2 big heat sinks with the actual Thermoelectric module in the middle. They actually look, the actual device inside looks something like this. It's 2 ceramic plates, and in between there's a whole bunch of tiny little junctions of different kinds of semiconductor material, and when you apply power to it, it actually pumps heat from one face to the other. So the little heatsink on top gets cold, which is inside the refrigerator, and it takes the heat from the refrigerator and it dumps it out to the bottom heatsink, which is outside of the refrigerator, and it's got fans on both sides that blow heat around, so it can exhaust the heat on the hot side and it blows the cold air on your food inside the refrigerator. So I'm going to grab some alligator clips and hook it up. They're pretty simple to use too. It's basically just 2 wires for the power for the Thermoelectric module, and then in this case, because since it was out of a refrigerator, it's got another 2 wires for the temperature sensor that's also stuck inside there. I'm feeding it about 12 volts, and it's drawing a little over 3 amps. Okay, it's been running for a few seconds, or a few minutes rather. Desk is about 75 degrees. Heatsink on top, 46 degrees, and the hot side heatsink is reading 85. It's kind of hard to get accurate readings on bare aluminum though, since it tends to reflect infrared. A little bit of a storm going on. Alright, it's the next day. Scope has had plenty of time to dry out, so I'll see if I can get this one up and running too. Cut this off. Hopefully this one doesn't blow up like the other one did. Looks good so far. Everything looks pretty good. And based on what I've seen online, this LCD here that displays the settings should actually be illuminated. But I'm assuming that the light bulb for that has burned out a long time ago. The light bulb for the grid illumination on this still works though. Where's my cable? Set this to AC. There we go. Pressing the wrong button. Seems to be working just fine. Alright, and here's the last item. I finally got the case off of the Nortel switch. It's been smashed up pretty good, but the internals all seem to be okay. PCB's flex pretty bad if I can get a good angle to show it. But I'm gonna plug it in and see what it does. Looks pretty good. Alright, I got a cable from my router. And this one goes to my laptop. Yep, I've got internet access. Looks like it works fine. I'll stick that down in my basement for use later.